Hello, welcome to Knots Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Friday, happy Valentine's Day too. Here's what we've got on the show today. First, we'll be hearing the plight of a family farm in Knots about proposed changes to inheritance tax rules.
We would be working for the next decade should my grandpa, who is still an active partner in the business, should he die in the near future, then we will be having to pay all of that inheritance tax.
We're also going to be hearing how you could shape a new PhD study into use of e-scooters in Nottingham. The study is being led by an academic over at NTU who's looking into the divisive devices ahead of their return to our streets within the next few weeks. We'll have more on that shortly. Plus, we've been behind the scenes at a brewery in Knots where female scientists are brewing a pink beer ahead of International Women's Day.
Less than around 3% of women are brewers, and we're really underrepresented in the industry, so we just kind of wanted to make a beer that inspired women and showed them that they could work in.
Because it's Valentine's Day, look, we've got red roses and ducks with hearts on them as well. You'll see them in a bit. We've been onto the streets of Nottingham to ask couples how they met and how long they've been together.
Keith was in the army. When he came out of the army, I used to go dancing with his cousin, and the following week he came down, took me home, and the rest is history.
Plus, we've got a bumper sport later on, including a look ahead to fixtures this weekend and reaction after Notts County's unbeaten run came to an end last night.
I think performance levels were very good. The game went how we thought it would go tactically. We've had 3 massive moments. We need to take one of them. Yeah, so it is frustrating, but look, the lads have given absolutely everything.
All that and loads more coming up just for you, but first, and a family of Notts farmers say planned changes to inheritance tax would be the final twist of the knife for their industry. The new Labour government announced changes to the tax exemptions experienced by farm owners, meaning that they'd be asked to pay tax on inherited assets worth more than £1 million. Ministers say it'll only affect the wealthiest 500 farms, but unions disagree and say up to 70,000 farms could be affected. And for the Barlow family in Caldwell Bishop, they fear their livelihoods are on the line. Harrison Evans reports.
Disappointed, angry and upset. That's the mood of local farmers who say the government's planned change to inheritance tax could cause huge issues to their livelihoods. Rules around how much money farm owners will pay on inherited land were amended during Chancellor Rachel Reeve's budget in October. The tax is paid when land or money of a significant value is passed down between generations when someone passes away. Most farmers currently pay reduced rates of tax when this happens because of special exemptions. Now, under this new rule, assets exceeding the £1 million threshold will be taxed at a 20% rate, which is half the usual rate of 40%. But the move has led farmers uniting in protest over recent months. Here at the Caldwell Bishop farm, owners are worried this plan could deal the final blow to British farming.
This inheritance tax proposed change is really so cruel because we haven't got the profitability in our business to enable us to pay the tax. We would be working for the next decade should my grandpa, who is still an active partner in the business, should he die in the near future, then we will be having to pay all of that inheritance tax. The industry is on its knees as it is, and this is like the final twist of the knife.
For 5 generations, the farm has been passed down, and Richard Barlow, father of James, believes the sacrifices he's made for the business could all be for nothing.
The amount of money I've spent, how I've tried to build a farm, and it's been at the expense of holidays, taking the boys out. They've probably missed out on a lot because we've always been paying off land. There's not much money left over, and you get to the stage now where you think, well, then you've got to start selling it again before you can hand it over. What's the point?
The Treasury has rejected calls to soften the policy, which will come into effect from April next year. And speaking to ITV News yesterday, the Prime Minister said growing the economy can't happen without the tax changes.
What you can't have is interest rates coming down, the growth we need in the economy, your waiting list coming down, and maintain the tax break for farmers. And people watching this will understand that that is a choice. They will know which they would prefer.
But in Caldwell Bishop, these farmers fear the decision leaves their future hanging in the balance. Harrison Evans for Knots TV.
Thanks, Harrison. Next, since the announcement last month that Nottingham City Council is set to relaunch e-scooters across the city, Berlin-based micromobility company DOT is taking over the city's e-scooter scheme, expected to make its return in the early spring, which could be as soon as next month. And upon their return, Lauren Baker, a PhD student at Nottingham Trent University, is set to launch a survey study looking into whether people are actually pleased with the return of the environmentally friendly tech, or if they aren't best pleased about the news. And Lauren joins us now. Thank you very much for coming in today. So tell us about the research that you're about to start.
Yeah, so my PhD is looking at e-scooters and actually e-bikes as well, specifically in Nottingham. Overall, I'm interested in the challenges and perhaps the solutions to sort of sharing space, sharing the city. But the first part of the research is a survey looking specifically at the rental schemes, so rental e-scooters and e-bikes, trying to understand what people actually think about them, what they see as the pros, the cons, who thinks what, who plans to use them, who doesn't.
And what's the purpose of the study? What will you do once you've got all the research in?
So one of the partners of the project is actually the City Council, so a summary of the results will be shared with the council to help them in their work. It will also be a great sort of starting off point for the rest of my research. So once I actually sort of understand what people in Nottingham want, what they think, what their priorities are, that can really help me to sort of direct the rest of my PhD.
And what do you think some of the pros and cons of e-scooters are?
Yeah, so in terms of the pros, I think they are a very convenient, quite a fun way to get around. I tend to think of them in terms of, in relation to sort of the kind of traditional cycling that lots of us will have grown up with. It's, less energy is involved, and some of the major barriers to cycling are actually overcome via these sorts of rental systems. So you don't really have to worry about storing a bicycle. You can just go out and access an e-scooter. You don't have to worry about maintaining it. You don't have that initial sort of purchase cost. You don't have to worry about theft. But yeah, there are some issues and downsides. So user behaviour is the sort of obvious one. I think most of us will have come across somebody on an e-scooter, perhaps riding on a pavement, perhaps running through a red light, and then the kind of parking side can be problematic. So e-scooters kind of left in a cluttered manner, perhaps creating problems for pedestrians, especially visually impaired people who may not see them.
It's a really interesting one. And honestly, I think your PhD sounds fascinating. So you're undertaking a PhD looking into micromobility in Nottingham. This is fabulous. What does that actually mean?
So, so micromobility refers to small, lightweight vehicles, normally used by one person at a time. So my particular focus is the e-scooter and e-bike side, but that term can mean normal bicycles. It can mean things like hoverboards, e-skateboards. But I'm trying to focus it in on the e-scooters and e-bikes.
Who would have thought? Did you ever think when you were growing up this would be your PhD? Because I just think it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's a very interesting field. Yeah.
So who do you want to answer this survey? Is it people who are using e-scooters or people who have an opinion on them? Who are you looking for?
It is really anybody. So the survey is open to adults who live in Nottingham or who visit the city regularly. I expect I'll probably hear from people who have quite strong views, either for or against e-scooters and e-bikes. I'd really love to have responses as well from people who either feel sort of fairly neutral or perhaps feel kind of ambivalent. I'd really like to try and understand kind of where the midpoint is, as well as sort of where the kind of really strong opinions are.
Because I guess you're right, if you're asking people for opinions, it'll either be people who are going, I love an e-scooter, they're brilliant, this is how I get around the city, or for people going, this is dreadful, an e-scooter bashed into me. So you're right, people who have never, maybe used them or have a strong opinion. And where can we fill in this survey?
Yep, so if you go to ntu.ac.uk/scooter survey, that will take you through to a link where you can take part.
Lovely. And is there a time element to this?
There's no firm deadline as yet, but I'd encourage people to take part as soon as they can.
Amazing, sounds fascinating. Thank you for coming in and sharing that with us. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. So interesting, all the things that go on in Nottingham. Right, so let's take some more of your news headlines now. First, and 3 men caught tending to a sophisticated and extensive cannabis plantation have been jailed. 35-year-old Mirjan Aliko, 25-year-old Song Lo and 24-year-old Arsen Ruku were found tending to the illegal plantation at a property on Cater Lane in Chilwell back in August of last year. During a warrant, officers found plants in the living room, the bedrooms and loft, with 232 plants found in total. The trio all admitted to producing Class B drugs in Nottingham Crown Court. Lo was jailed for 14 months, with Ruku 13 months and Aliko for 12. Next, and a Nottingham man has admitted to killing a gentle giant in his own Clifton home. 40-year-old Jonathan Dieter was pronounced dead at a property on Eddleston Drive on September the 17th last year. 34-year-old Kane Lonsdale of Lowick Close in Clifton was later arrested and charged with his murder. He appeared at Nottingham Crown Court on Friday and pleaded guilty to 1 count of murder. He was remanded into custody and will appear at the same court again on April the 24th for sentencing. Right, pop and grab yourself a cup of comeback after the break, because we are going to be seeing some great work by textile students being printed and put on display, plus a bumper sport featuring reaction to Notts County's first loss for a while. All that on the way next. Hello, welcome back to Friday's show with me, Emma Caldwell. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're okay today. Here's what's happening in Notts today. First, a cargo plane travelling between Cardiff and Spain had to make an emergency landing at East Midlands Airport. The One Air plane took off from the Welsh capital on Thursday afternoon, heading for Zaragoza in Spain, but issued an emergency warning at about 1 p.m. and was diverted to East Midlands Airport around an hour later. A spokesperson for the airport, which sits on the border of Notts, Derbyshire and Leicestershire, said it was related to a failure in one engine, but confirmed the plane landed safely on the runway. Next, and road closures have been confirmed ahead of the return of the Nottingham 10K event next month. The run will take over the city centre on March the 9th and will require roads to close between 5 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, with several parking suspensions in place from 6 p.m. on the 8th until 11 on the following morning. Areas affected include Old Market Square, where the run will actually begin, as well as Lenton Road, Mansfield Road, Forest Road East and Huntingdon Street too. Thousands of pounds are expected to be raised during the run. And good luck if you're training for that as well. That's something slightly sporty. We will of course have more of your sports roundup in just a few minutes time, but first it's time to head across the border to Leicestershire, more specifically to Lutterworth, so we can celebrate the work of some third-year textile design students at NTU, and that's because they've headed to Epsom, UK to look at some of their own designs being printed in the flesh and to take up an opportunity to speak with some industry experts as they prepare to head into the working world. Jordan Guerrero went along yesterday to see their designs in the flesh.
A state-of-the-art printing technology space based over the border in Leicestershire, but showcasing the work of students from Nottingham Trent University. These facilities at Epsom UK welcome textile design students from the university to try it out for themselves as they prepare for their third-year project. Some of the cool new pieces of equipment are the Shaw Colour F3000 and their S9100, which help Epsom to make virtual photos and images come to life on a range of different products. This week they invited NTU students to come and try the kit out, as well as pass on their tech-savvy knowledge. Students Ellie Brown and Gemma Derbyshire say days like this are eye-opening when it comes to taking their knowledge into a fully fledged working environment.
I really want to go into doing a brand myself, so I feel like having these expertise and being able to, I was kind of looking more about print innovation as well, more like in fashion, so I feel like this would be really helpful for me to kind of explore what is possible really.
I feel like today will be really key to opening my eyes up to everything's not just about the design, also about the manufacturing, the sustainability and the kind of behind the scenes of it all.
Managing Director at Epsom UK, Duncan Ferguson, says over the years he's seen a dramatic change in the print industry. That includes a shift from analogue to digital methods when it comes to innovation. He says the printing world is crying out for younger employees who are much more familiar with working alongside technology.
A lot of us, myself included, come from an analogue background, and we'll find that the general age of people in the industry is getting towards retirement. So actually there's a real requirement for fresh minds, fresh people into the industry, people with different ways of thinking, and also who understand the digital technology intrinsically because they've grown up with it.
The hands-on experience enables students to take away knowledge and professional advice to help improve their projects too. Textile design course leader Claire Elton says this opportunity with Epson helps students understand how they can make the most of their transferable skills.
To actually see it with their own eyes and have the opportunity to see their own designs being printed on the equipment, I think is just so inspiring and fascinating to them. And I think it really paints a picture of potentially the roles that they can go on to.
Universities and working professionals hope the future is bright for more partnership days like this one, so the printing world sticks around in the fast-paced digital era. Jordan Guerrero for Notts TV.
Looks fascinating. I think I'd like a look around the Epsom factory. Time for your sport now, and we're starting with Notts County, who saw their impressive 6-game unbeaten league run come to an end last night in the hands of informed Port Vale. The Pies dominated most of the match and had more of the chances, but the hosts scored late on through Ronan Curtis in what was their only shot on target all game. Speaking after the match, head coach Stuart Maynard said it was a disappointing way to end a great run for the side, who remained second place but should have taken some of their chances.
I think performance levels were very good. The game went how we thought it would go tactically. We'd overload out wide in the wide areas. We've had 3 massive moments. We need to take one of them. I think in the first half, when you're that dominant and played a lot of the game in their half and create the 2 big opportunities that we create, we need to take at least one of them and go in at half-time 1-0 up, because we knew in the second half they would have a spell, and they had a few spells in the second half. They couldn't not. We knew that they kept playing off the front, setting, spinning, and then getting it down the sides and then putting balls into our box. So it is frustrating, but look, the lads have given absolutely everything.
Stuart Maynard there. And next up for Notts is a home game with Colchester on Tuesday. Across the Trent now, and Forest are back in Premier League action tomorrow when they travel to face Fulham. Marco Silva's side beat Newcastle away last time out in the league, whilst Forest had that incredible 7-0 win at home to Brighton. A win for the Reds is vital as they look to solidify their place in the top 4. But speaking to the media ahead of the trip to Craven Cottage, head coach Nuno Espirito Santo said he expects a tough challenge on the banks of the Thames.
That's not even in, I'm just thinking about tomorrow and preparing well the match. It's going to be a tough match. Let's not go look ahead of that. I don't have to think about things when they don't happen. When things happen, then we have to find out solutions, and that's what is important for us regarding the depth of our squad. I think that we have solutions. Will be better if we maintain healthy and everybody available. I think we can compete in both competitions till the end of the season. Fulham is a very good team with the good players and a good manager. We expect a tough match, so it's going to be a new game that we have to be ready, knowing to achieve something at Fulham we have to work very hard.
And we're sticking with Forest. Details of their FA Cup 5th round clash with Ipswich have been confirmed. The Reds will welcome the Premier League strugglers to the City Ground on Monday, March the 3rd, and will be hoping to secure their place in the quarter-finals. The game has been selected for TV coverage too, with the game being broadcast on ITV4 when it kicks off at 7:30 p.m. The club says ticket details for the game will be confirmed at a later date. Into League One now, and it's been quite a poor start to the calendar year for Mansfield Town, who find themselves on a 7-game losing streak. Most recently, they were beaten 3-0 away at a very strong Leyton Orient side on Tuesday night, with manager Nigel Clough saying they were one of the toughest teams they've faced this season. Next up for Mansfield is a trip to the coast to face Blackpool tomorrow afternoon, and speaking after the Orient loss, Clough said despite the current run, the Stags are exactly where he expected them to be.
You've got to put it in perspective how good they were. I can't stop saying, they would have beaten most teams, or I think every team in the league tonight. It's the best we've faced all season, and we have to accept that. We're first time in this league for a long, long time. If we'd have won one, lost a few, and then won one, drawn one, or something like that, it would be easier to handle and accept. But when you have these long losing streaks, as we're having and we had earlier on in the season, then it makes it look worse than it is. So if the defeats had been spread out and we'd have been sitting here now and just lost and got a draw maybe on Friday night, we'd be sitting there saying, well, we're still 37 points, we're in not too bad a situation, roughly where we expected to be, I would have said. If you'd have asked us all after with 17 games to go, said, where would you think you'll be? I said, somewhere here.
So with all that in mind, we recently aired the latest edition of Team Talk, where Mark Caldwell and former Reds and Notts defender Kelvin Wilson looked over this weekend's fixtures and gave their predictions. And you can catch up with that show on demand right now by visiting our website, that's nottstv.com, or on our official YouTube channel too. And here's what they had to say about the away trips for Forest and Stags this coming weekend, as well as County's home match against Colchester on Tuesday night too.
We're going to look ahead to the weekend now, and it's time for our weekend predictions. Forest at Fulham. I love Craven Cottage, by the way.
I've played there. We had a bit of a nightmare. I'm going to say Forest. I think they'll win.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a draw for that one. Mansfield Town against Blackpool away on Saturday. Can they break this run of 7 defeats? It's a tough place.
Blackpool away, yeah, tough place. I'm sure the pitch will be dreadful at this time of the year as well. I'm going to say they're going to a loss. I'm going to go Blackpool.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you stay in the hotel there, you get a free view of the game, and I'm going for a draw there. And Notts County are playing at home next Tuesday against Colchester United at Meadow Lane.
Yep, Notts again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can't really see past Notts County.
Especially at home.
Yeah, fantastic.
And don't forget, you can catch that edition of Team Talk on our website or YouTube channel right now. On to ice hockey, and this weekend is all about Coventry for the Nottingham Panthers as Danny Stewart faces his former side home and away. The weekend starts with a clash with the Blaze at the Motorpoint Arena on Saturday before the side travel across the Midlands to face the same opponents away on Sunday. The Panthers head into the game off the back of 2 successive defeats, including a shootout defeat at home to Glasgow last Sunday and a more resounding 3-0 loss to Belfast in the Challenge Cup on Wednesday too. Looking into rugby now, it's the final game for Nottingham in what's been a rather disappointing Premiership Rugby Cup campaign. The Archers host Premiership side Northampton Saints at the Bay this evening in their 6th game of Pool B, having lost their opening 5 matches. Kick-off for that one is 7:45 before competitive action ends for just a short while. They'll face the Leicester Tigers in a friendly at the Bay in 2 weeks before having another friendly, this time against the British Army a week later. Time now for your Friday photo of the day. Look at this, excellent shot. Look at that, mean and moody, taken by professional photographer Tracy Whitefoot. Thank you so much for sharing that one, I love it. Weather-wise now, tonight we'll see temperatures dropping to a very chilly 1 degree. Tomorrow we'll see some light showers throughout the afternoon with highs of 4 in the early afternoon and lows of 2. Lastly, Sunday will be a cloudy one with lows of 1 and highs of 4. So have a good weekend, even though it's not going to be particularly nice weather for the weekend. Right, let's take another short break now, but when we get back we are going to be finding out how new environmentally friendly solutions could be found in the materials used to fix our roads. I know, how niche. Plus we've got your Friday What's On guide coming up too. All of that and plenty more Notts news and views on the way next. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Happy Friday, happy Valentine's Day as well. Here's some more of your news headlines. First, a new footpath has opened so that people can walk underneath a historic Victorian viaduct on the Notts and Derbyshire border. The former Benelli Viaduct railway bridge, now known as the Iron Giant, reopened in 2022 after being closed for more than 5 decades. It connects the Alsworth area of Notts to Ilkeston in Derbyshire and is classed as a community asset. Now, a group responsible for conserving the viaduct have confirmed a temporary path has been created so that people can enjoy the countryside around it whilst repairs to an entrance ramp take place. Next, and plans to redevelop a Newark estate and build new homes have been given planning approval by the council. The regeneration plans for York Drive will get going in the summer after years of planning and delays. The project will see 207 homes built in the area, as well as improvements to playing fields, the creation of a new sports pavilion and improvements to existing properties too. The proposals were debated at a planning committee meeting on Thursday evening, where councillors gave the redevelopment their backing. Time now for your What's On Guide, where we give you a little rundown of what you can get up to tonight on this lovely Friday night, whether you're in having a lovely Valentine's Day or not. Well, kicking it off this Friday, if you want to make it a big one. And when it comes to a big night out, I've got to say I won't be there because this one is for teens. But if you're feeling it, then you can head to Rebellio Lounge Valentine's Rave. I know, it's at the Hidden Warehouse on Swans Road on Long Row. As I say, it's one for teens. Tickets are still available. And if you go and have a lovely, lovely night. Alternatively, over at the Garage Pub in Chilwell, their Funhouse Comedy Night, it starts at 8 p.m. Tickets are £13. Not too late to grab some and head out of to that one with some of your mates. And lastly, but by no means least, Get Lucky Valentine's Day special night at Rock City is on. It starts at 10. Tickets cost £6. Whatever you're doing, Valentine's or not, have a good evening. Now, yesterday we covered a University of Nottingham project aimed at boosting biodiversity on its campuses. And my next guest is here to tell us yet another way the university is doing its bit to support an eco-friendly future. And that's because researchers are finding new bio-based materials used to repave our roads and fix potholes as alternatives to the main fossil fuel-based materials we use now. At the moment, fossil fuel-derived bitumen is the primary material used for road construction, which the researchers are looking at finding long-term replacement for the harmful component. And joining me now is Anand Seeram, who's the Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about this study. How did it all come about?
Right, so as you mentioned, roads, which is basically made of asphalt. 95% of more than 95% of our road network is made of asphalt. So asphalt is essentially bitumen and aggregates. And bitumen is a byproduct of the crude oil refining process. It's a fossil fuel. And currently with the ongoing net zero agenda and decarbonization agenda, there is a national as well as an international research efforts to find replacements for fossil fuel based bitumen. And that's what we're trying to do as part of the study, where we're looking to develop bio-based alternatives to bitumen.
So what does bio-based alternatives mean? What's the difference between fossil fuels and biofuels?
Right, so fossil fuels essentially have a fossil fuel origin. So essentially they're a byproduct of the crude oil refining process. So when crude oil is distilled, you have different kinds of products such as kerosene, natural gas, other types of petrol and so on. And the byproduct of that is bitumen. So that has a fossil fuel origin. Whereas something like a bio-based material it has a biological origin, such as maybe wood or lignin, biomass, and so on.
So the fossil fuels aren't as good for the environment. So we're looking to make these things better for the environment.
Yeah, I think fossil fuels. I think as a nation and as internationally, there's a clear push towards a fossil fuel-free future. And that's the same for different sectors such as aviation, even cars and so on. And similarly, we have to come up with alternative sources to pave our roads because more than 95% of our roads are paved using bitumen.
So this is really interesting because, as you say, over 95% of our roads are done this way, and they've been done this way for years. Yeah. How do you even go about finding something new to make our roads?
Exactly. So bitumen is quite it does its job. It's quite a good material for making roads. So whatever we come up with has to sort of meet the requirements in terms of a material that is at least capable as much as bitumen. Yeah.
So what have you found? What's the research found?
Yeah, so I think the research has found that going to 100% replacement for bitumen right away is probably not possible. We need to have a step change. So what our research is trying to do is to maybe look at a partial replacement for bitumen. So even started with something like 20%, 30%, and eventually in the long term maybe look at 100% replacement for bitumen.
And when these things are happening at universities right here in Nottingham, and we're looking at roads here in the country, are we just looking in the UK, or when you kind of plan these things, kind of the next generation of roads, is this something that the world might be using?
Absolutely. I think around the world there's huge interest, especially in Europe, yeah, so I think that's looking into the future. We are clearly moving towards a non-fossil fuel based economy. So yeah, it is sort of imminent that we have to look for alternatives for bitumen, and most likely it will come from biological origin. So that's what our research is trying to do. Yeah.
I feel like even though we're talking about road surfaces, I feel like it's a really exciting development in what could be happening. And when you guys do your research and all these things are kind of, you find the new fuels that you can use, what kind of time frame are we looking at? When could we see these on our roads?
I think there's already there are already products available in the market, but realistically, I think it's a step change. So initially, we might see a partial replacements. We have ongoing projects that's looking into that, demonstrators in different councils across the UK. And yeah, and then going into the future, yeah, definitely. I think maybe in a 5 to 10 year horizon, we think we'll see a lot more of these. But the big challenge is that whatever we produce has to at least meet the similar engineering performance as what we have currently. So I think that's the big technical challenge that we're trying to address.
Well, I'm very pleased there are people like you that can make those technical decisions. Where can we find out more about the research you're doing?
Yeah, you can find more about us at the Nottingham Transportation Engineering Centre. Also, we are part of the University of Nottingham, so you can find us on the website. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Right, time for another look at one of our top stories today. And a family of Notts farmers say planned changes to inheritance tax would be the final twist of the knife for their industry. The new Labour government announced changes to the tax exemptions experienced by farm owners, meaning they'd be asked to pay tax on inherited assets worth more than £1 million. Ministers say it'll only affect the wealthiest 500 farms, but unions disagree and say up to 70,000 farms could be affected. And for the Barlow family in Cropwell Bishop, they fear their livelihoods are on the line. Harrison Evans
Disappointed,
reports.
angry and upset. That's the mood of local farmers who say the government's planned change to inheritance tax could cause huge issues to their livelihoods. Rules around how much money farm owners will pay on inherited land were amended during Chancellor Rachel Reeves' budget in October. The tax is paid when land or money of a significant value is passed down between generations when someone passes away. Most farmers currently pay reduced rates of tax when this happens because of special exemptions. Now, under this new rule, assets exceeding the £1 million threshold will be taxed at a 20% rate, which is half the usual rate of 40%. But the move has led farmers uniting in protest over recent months. Here at the Cropwell Bishop farm, owners are worried this plan could deal the final blow to British farming.
This inheritance tax proposed change is really so cruel, because we haven't got the profitability in our business to enable us to pay the tax. We would be working for the next decade should my grandpa, who is still an active partner in the business, should he die in the near future, then we will be having to pay all of that inheritance tax. The industry is on its knees as it is, and this is like the final twist of the knife.
For 5 generations, the farm has been passed down, and Richard Barlow, father of James, believes the sacrifices he's made for the business could all be for nothing.
The amount of money I've spent, how I've tried to build a farm, and it's been at the expense of holidays, taking the boys out. They've probably missed out on a lot because we've always been paying off land. There's not much money left over. And you get to the stage now where you think, well, then you've got to start selling it again before you can hand it over. What's the point?
The Treasury has rejected calls to soften the policy, which will come into effect from April next year. And speaking to ITV News yesterday, the Prime Minister said growing the economy can't happen without the tax changes.
What you can't have is interest rates coming down, the growth we need in the economy, your waiting list coming down, and maintain the tax break for farmers. And people watching this will understand that that is a choice. They will know which they would prefer.
But in Cropwell Bishop, these farmers fear the decision leaves their future hanging in the balance. Harrison Evans for Notts TV.
Right, let's have a look at some more of your news headlines now. First, another Notts council has set out plans to increase tax from April. Gedling Borough Council has become the latest authority to support a tax rise, with Labour cabinet members approving a 2.99% rise at a meeting on Thursday. The decision would mean Band A homes pay the authority £3.75 more from April, alongside separate increases to fund the County Council, the Police and the Fire Authority too. Broxtowe, Mansfield, Newark and Sherwood, as well as Rushcliffe councils, have also set out similar tax rises. Next, and police have warned people not to fall for romance fraudsters targeting people today on Valentine's Day. Nottinghamshire police say scammers from all over the world are successful in stealing tens of thousands of pounds each year from Notts residents right here in Nottinghamshire, using a mixture of deception, manipulation and blackmail too. They've warned people to be suspicious if fraudsters ask for money or if a love interest is from a distant location. And they've said to never share images, bank details or sensitive information with somebody you've never met. Good advice. All right, let's take one final break now, but we've got loads more coming up for you shortly, and that includes meeting the female scientists brewing pink beer ahead of International Women's Day. I love that. And finding out the secret to a long and happy relationship too from people in the city centre. That's on the way next. Welcome back to Friday's show with me, Emma Caldwell. Happy Valentine's Day if you're celebrating today. Here's what's happening in Notts first. And a new indoor rock climbing centre will be created in Nottingham after plans were approved by the City Council. The climbing hangar will open a new branch on Croker Street near Nottingham Station in the old AFS Appliance Furniture Solutions building. Once complete, the new climbing centre will have a bouldering and climbing wall, a management office, a reception, a cafe serving hot food and drinks and changing rooms too. It'll be the 10th climbing centre opened by the company across the country. Next, the new figures have suggested there's been a 79% reduction in antisocial behaviour in Bingham thanks to new safety measures and CCTV cameras. The town has also seen a 51% drop in public disorder offences and a 43% reduction in criminal damages since the cameras were installed by the police. They've been funded by the Home Office and shot in high definition with night vision technology and 24/7 monitoring too. Speaking on the figures, Crime Commissioner Gary Godden says the Bingham project has been a resounding success. And the popular Greens Windmill in Sneinton has confirmed a host of family-themed events heading into the half-term break. The popular attraction says its events are free and include interactive displays encouraging people to discover the magic of science. There's also fun exhibits about the weather and how it's used to power the windmill, as well as a roll-on film telling the story of mathematical genius involved with the invention of MRI scanning machines. Plus, there's some baking there too. But if you prefer drinking rather than baking, then beer lovers rejoice because the Hucknall Beer Festival is back. The annual event has returned to the John Godber Centre to bring the best of local brewers and cider makers to the town, all whilst raising vital funds for the community centre it's based in. So today, our reporter Jack Sims went along for a taste.
Raising spirits by raising a glass. The Hucknall Beer Festival has returned for 4 days of fun and fundraising. The annual event has been getting stronger every year and is organised by Nottingham's Campaign for Real Ale. They want to bring more local brewers stocking stouts and ales behind the bars of Nottinghamshire. And this is the perfect place to do it, with hundreds of independent breweries and booze makers lining the walls of the John Godber Centre. That includes Nottingham's Castle Rock and Derby's Dancing Duck, all ready to be enjoyed by hundreds of beer fans from across the county and beyond. But keeping it local is what the event is all about. Ray Blockley is an event organiser as well as a local cider maker. He says events like these help brewers in a big way.
Shines a spotlight on them and it helps people come and they'll say, oh, I didn't know they lived there. Oh, they're from Eastwood, just up the road, you know. So they're realising that not all cider is made in Somerset. It's not all made in factories. It's not all made by people with white coats and clipboards. You know, it's hands-on. It's people with a the feet on the ground and hands in the earth, if you like, to put it that way.
This year's festival is dedicated to former framework knitter and local Samaritan Zachariah Green. He helped heal the poor of Hucknall and is the face of the fest, even being put on these limited edition tankards. Charity being a big aspect of the event, as the money raised by the festival will raise vital funds to support the centre itself, which is the home of more than 60 groups, from health and wellbeing to youth groups too. Its manager, Kim Pears, says the event gives back not just to the community facility, but the town too.
It's an excellent fundraiser. We see so many people across the weekend, and it's brilliant. And it's brilliant for the town as well. So a lot of people don't just come to Hucknall Beer Festival for the festival. They do go and visit a number of the venues in the local area. We're so lucky to have so many fantastic pubs and micro pubs in the area.
But let's see what taste has been left in the mouth of visitors.
It's just a nice steady atmosphere, a good buzz, and it's just a beer fest, nothing else really.
For one thing, it's free. They've got a very good choice of beers, and it's a decent venue.
Beers will be poured here until Sunday, with live music and competitions running over the weekend. Jack Sims for Notts TV.
Thank you, Jack. And we've got even more beer for you now. It is Friday after all, but this time we are going to see where it comes from. And that is because Blue Monkey Brewery, which is one of the brewers at the Hucknall Beer Festival, has teamed up with scientists at the University of Nottingham to create a brand new pink beer ahead of International Women's Day in March. Lucy Marshall hopped along to Giltbrook to see how it's all coming together.
From millions of tiny pieces of ground up hops to a nice cold pint of dark stout. But have you ever heard of pink beer? Blue Monkey Brewery's newest venture is a rosy coloured lager inspired by Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. The brewers have collaborated with scientists at the University of Nottingham to create a drink for International Women's Day. PhD student Julia Roselli sees the collab as a great opportunity to get women interested in the art of beer making.
Less than around 3% of women are brewers, and we're really underrepresented in the industry, so we just kind of wanted to make a beer that inspired women and showed them that they could work in this industry as well. All roles in brewing are accessible for women, if that's being a brewer, if it's being in a managerial role, or if it's just enjoying drinking beer. We thought that International Women's Day would be a good way to sort of get the message across to people.
The Blush Bev will be canned in around a month's time, but how do we get to that point? Here in the main room is where the magic happens. There are 4 key ingredients: water, hops, malt and yeast, and a special secret addition to this particular brew, hibiscus. Head brewer Daniel Froggatt revealed exactly how Blue Monkey is turning pink this March.
So literally just now we've mashed in, so we've used the liquor, the water and the malt. We'll then add it to the kettle, boil it up, add the hops and the hibiscus, because obviously this one's a bit of a different beer to celebrate International Women's Day. And then we'll transfer it over to our vessel in which we'll ferment it in, and then we're adding a traditional Belgium style yeast in there to ferment it out with.
The beer, which goes by the name Viva la Frida, will be available to buy at the brewery, and you can keep an eye out for it in local venues too.
Well, it's not smelling too great in here at the moment, but we'll be back. When is it again?
Saturday the 8th of March.
The 8th of March for International Women's Day, when the beer's being canned, to finally see what the finished result is. Lucy Marshall for Notts TV. Cheers!
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Lucy. Right, moving on. And whilst everything, including the weather, just feels rather doom and gloom recently, so we thought let's have even more positivity heading into the weekend. And of course, it's Valentine's Day today, the day of love. And what better way to mark the occasion than by heading out into Nottingham to find out the secret to a long and happy relationship. Is it give and take? Is it patience? Is it something else? Here's what people in the city centre told us, as well as some lovely stories about how they met each other.
She come to my house one day with a friend. Her friend was going out with one of my mates, so we met up with each other there. But we
went to school together, but we didn't really speak at school. He's a year above me, so if they make you laugh, then it'll last.
Keith was in the army. When he came out of the army, I used to go dancing with his cousin, and the following week he came down, took me home.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
We've been together all these years, yeah.
the one and only.
Yeah, the secret of love is when you can do anything, anything for the person who you love. Is when you're ready to spend any time together and you're actually looking to spending that time.
It was New Year's Eve, so I just asked her for a kiss on New Year's Eve, and that was it. Everything came up after that.
Just being honest, you know, and being patient. I think you got to be real, innit? Like you got to understand yourself to be able to understand others.
Spending time with each other, getting to know them on a deeper level, and being able to work off of that.
And definitely communication as well. You need to have good communication skills.
Oh, I love a bit of love, and happy Valentine's Day if you're celebrating. Happy Valentine's Day to my husband Johnny as well. Right, in case you missed it last night, this month a special edition of the Knox TV Book Club, which you can catch on the channel throughout February or online throughout either our websites or our official YouTube channel. And this month, Becky Cullen and her panel of guests step into the life and world of one of England's most provocative and celebrated authors, D.H. Lawrence. They explore his life, his work, and how his groundbreaking novels resonate in the modern world too. But they don't just do it from the studio. Oh no, they've headed out to the Birthplace Museum in Eastwood. Take a look.
So Sons and Lovers is set in Eastwood and the area. It's semi-autobiographical, telling the story of the Morell family, their 4 children, who are struggling between the upbringing of their mother, very straight-laced upbringing, if you like, and the mining community of the father's family. So it's a novel that's got first love, it's got friendship, it's got fights, it's got fiendishness, let's face it, and it's all set against the backdrop of the rising middle class in the early 20th century. So this is a classic. We thought it'd be really great to hear an extract before we start discussing it. So we asked Billy to record a section. This section is about Arthur Morell getting ready for work in the morning.
He went downstairs in his shirt and then struggled into the pit trousers which were left on the hearth to warm all night. There was always a fire because Mrs. Morell raked, and the first sound in the house was the bang bang of the poker against the raker as Morell smashed the remainder of the coal to make the kettle, which was filled and left on the hob, finally boil. His cup and knife and fork, all he wanted except just the food, was laid ready on the table on a newspaper. Then he got his breakfast, made the tea, packed the bottom of the doors with rugs to shut out the draught, piled a big fire and sat down to an hour of joy.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that. Another look now at your photo of the day, and this excellent shot, look at that, taken by professional photographer Tracy Whitefoot. Thank you so much for sharing that one, Tracy. Time for your weather now, and tonight we'll see temperatures dropping to a very chilly 1 degree. Tomorrow we'll see some light showers throughout the afternoon with highs of 4 in the early afternoon with lows of 2. And it's going to be a cloudy one with lows of 1 and a high of 4 over the weekend. That's the end of the show and another week on Knots Today. Thanks as always to our great guest. Lovely Al Booth is back at the usual time on Monday to do it all over again. But until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend, and happy Valentine's Day. I'm Emma Caldwell. Bye-bye.